Here I am. Just a slight delay this afternoon. A little bit late, but that's okay. Hi, it's Tuesday, September 17th. My name is Rob, that developer dad around here, and I'm building a dotNet app that's going to be hosted in Azure that busy game masters and dungeon masters such as myself that sometimes have trouble coming up with things on the fly could find really handy when their players ask, so what's the shopkeeper's name and stuff like that. Yeah, this morning we got through recording who created an NPC as they're saved and filtering the list of NPCs in the UI by who has created them, and so on. And let's see here. I'm looking for the right PowerPoint to load up here. This is the application architecture. That's for Azure. So that's not quite what I want. Well, that is peculiar that you didn't get a notification. Very odd indeed. File, open recent. You know what? I will open up the architecture diagram here. Let's save that stuff. And bear with me for just a second while I find the right place. I'll get there as soon as I have the diagramming application loaded and looking the way I want it to on screen here. Here we go. So I'm going to share it to the main screen. Main screen, turn on. What you say? So right here, we've got sort of the application architecture of all the different components and all that stuff, right? So I should probably take a look at what I actually named those assemblies before I dive in too far. Metered usage access. Cool. So I'm going to come in here and just change this to metered usage. And we've got a metered usage.sql server. And now we need to hook these guys into the main application so that as people create and save NPCs, we can keep track of how many of these limited resources they're using. Now, it might be tempting to just stuff the calls out to our usage trackers into the Townsfolk manager, but I'm not really in love with that because tracking usage is a separate activity from generating and managing NPCs or other objects that we might create along the way. So what I want to do is we're going to introduce a new manager, game tools dot UserManager, and this guy is going to be the one who is responsible for communicating with the backend database access stuff. And we're going to call this guy from the workload provider from the API application. So I'm going to grab this. We're going to attach it here and here. And what this does is it keeps me from having to pollute the Townsfolk manager with things like subscription setup, usage tracking, etc., etc. All of these things that are completely unrelated to generating an NPC. And it limits the area of change to this manager class, which is going to be net new, and then integrating it into the workload provider, and of course, altering the Blazor client to be able to stand up the UserManager and its dependencies. But I shouldn't have to alter any of the code inside the actual Blazor client itself that I don't have to alter anyway to make those operations aware of who is invoking them. But I showed how I do that this morning when I hooked up user ID into the save operation and the list NPCs operations. And it was fairly simple, if you remember. So let's dive in. We're going to need to create a new project, and it's going to be, another class library, nice and simple. We're going to add a couple of interfaces, some data transfer objects, DTOs, and then we're going to implement it against this metered usage API that we created, that we worked on last week. So let's save, and I'm gonna actually exit draw IO because I don't need it open, and let's dive in. Now, before we do that, I should probably checkpoint the work that we did this morning. So let's check this in. Adds user ID to the filter NPCs and save NPC operation in the UI. Commit all. Now, I'm not going to do this work on a discrete branch. Add user context classes, close enough. I should probably look at my stuff here. Implement usage resource tracking, create user context class. Boop. Let's do that, and let's add an item. Integrate the metered usage component into the main application. And we're going to go ahead and convert this to an issue. The GM tools repository, I'll assign myself. Labels, coding, architecture, and enhancement. We'll edit this. Now that the UI keeps track of who is using it when, and we have a way to record limited resource consumption. Let's get those two pieces talking to each other. Create a user manager. Integrate that manager with the backend access components. Integrate the new manager into the UI API project. Save. Let's do it. Let's dive in. So we'll go to our Solution Explorer, and we're going to hit the Managers folder. We don't need that open. We do need add new project, class library, and it is going to be game tools dot user manager. User or usage? I think user. Let's make sure it's going into the right place here. So we've got source, and we want to put this in the managers folder so that our folder structure loosely resembles the organization of our actual solution in Visual Studio. So I'll hit next. We're going to use dotNet 8, and let's create it. Now, I do want to mimic the loose structure of my other manager type things. So let's go ahead and do that. So I've got contracts and internal operations. Add a new folder, contracts, and we are going to need an internal operations folder. Great. First thing we got to do is add a new item. It's going to be an interface. And what are we going to call it? This one is going to be in charge of tracking usage. Usage meters. I like that. And we need to make it public. We'll get the operation list for that in a minute, because we're going to mimic what's going on down in the resource access stuff. We're going to add another contract here. Add subscriptions. Subscriptions. Yeah, good enough. Public. Now we're going to do something that we haven't done before, and that's implement a couple of interfaces on the same class. So we can rename the class that Visual Studio so helpfully created class 1 to user I don't want to use the same name as the namespace. Hey, what's up, Rev? Ha! Fantastic. All right, so what do I want to call this? I don't want to use the name as the type as the root namespace. So user, I'm going to call it usage manager. It's not fantastic, but whatever. You're renaming a file? Yes, I want you to rename that file. Save. Now, I am not going to implement iSubscriptions on this yet. Defines the operations required to manipulate user subscriptions. Cool, huh? Save. And I'm going to pop open resource access and metered usage access. I'm just going to grab iUser subscription access. And yeah, these interfaces are going to be very, very similar to each other. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab these, copy, and let's paste these in here. There we go. I have some references to add. Let me close that up and add project reference. I need to add DevDev framework, Game Tools framework. I also need to add metered usage access because I'm going to be leveraging those public interfaces in what I'm doing. Is there anything else I need to set up? At this point, I'm going to say no. So let's click OK. Clear up the anger code. There's that. And we are not going to be returning the resource model. That's a big fat no-no. So add a class, and it's just going to be called subscription. It's going to be public. And that's about all we know about it for now. If I can come over here and do that. Now I've got a few more errors up in here. I'm just going to do this. There we go. And that's about all we got to do there. Like I said, I'm not going to implement this yet. So I'm going to just come in here, remove and sort usings, save it, close it, save it, I said. All right. Now, the usage is one that I'm much more interested in implementing at this point. So we got to come down here and grab quota access. And I'm going to grab almost all of these things. And I'm going to hit copy. Actually, I'm going to grab all of those things. So subscription, that can go away. My usage meters, we're going to paste in here. And user quota, I don't want to use resource models. No, sir. Goodbye. That's fine. Now, user quota, we're going to need to create a add class quota container. And we're going to make it public. The quota container is going to contain a couple of quotas. Add. It also is going to be public. Pardon me. Quota container is going to have prop string, a user ID. There's that crazy keystroke combination biting me in the butt again. Now, I do want to look at user quota down here in the resource models. So we've got a couple of resource quotas which map to quota. We've got one for storage, we've got one for AI generations. And those are not named perfectly well. We've got metered resource, and is that metered resource kind really needs to move into Game Tools framework. Yeah, it does. Concepts. Yep. Add class metered resource kind. Boom. And it's going to become a public enum. This is just a quick little refactor that we're going to do here. Hopefully quick. UserManager. I'm just going to grab this. Copy that. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and cut it. And I'm going to drop it in right here. Great. Save. Metered resource kind. Goodbye. Yep. And now we're going to get a whole flood of error messages. Oop, wrong one. This is the button. Generate read-only property. This is in resource models user quota. Okay, I need to make sure I've got the game tools framework referenced here. Here we are. Click OK there. Now I should be able to fix the angry code. Cool. That one's fixed. Close that. This one. Oh my, it sounds like my AirPods are running out of battery. That's no fun. Load user quota. This needs to become quota container. Whoops. Let's just go ahead and fix this. Just because those are noises that I should have fixed before I got into moving that resource kind. Here we go. We'll save everything. And let's see. Build, rebuild. Now, while that's rebuilding, I got to check on my batteries here. Okay, one of them has 0% left. The other one is okay. Weird. That's okay. These AirPods are old. So now we've got our anger code back, and I can start fixing these. Fix that. C# compiler errors are a pain in the neck. So build, rebuild. Doopy 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 doo. Doody doody do. And it looks like our rebuild all succeeded. So good. So a resource quota is what we're going to mimic in that quota class. Or the quotas. Why did I call it quotas? That was silly. Rename. There. Yes. Good. Okay, so public class quota. And it has got almost all of this same stuff. It's got a budget, a consumption amount, copy, quota. We're just going to paste this in here. And yes, copy paste coding is the devil, but in this case, it's okay. And we don't even really need a thing here. So resource quota can go away. Quota container, we are going to mimic user quota. And for that, I'm just going to pop down here, copy it, and I'm going to overwrite this stuff. There we go. And this isn't a resource quota, but just a quota. And a quota. And I'm going to say NPC storage, NPC AI generations, because I am counting them that way. And I want to take a look at what I'm doing in my constructor. Okay, yeah, let's do the exact same thing over here. Well, almost the exact same thing. So we're going to copy and paste. And of course, as we add new types of limited resources, we can extend this. And I don't feel bad about having these things hard-coded like this because the only time this stuff is going to change is when we add new kinds of things. So equals new quota, and it's not storage, but NPC storage, and NPC AI generations. Save all. Okay. So I've got my quota container, I've got my quota, those are set. I've got my I usage meters, that is in the UserManager, good. Close metered resource kind, we can close user quota, and we can close NPC access, townsperson, client model, this, that, and this, usage manager. I usage meters. Implement the interface. Pardon me. Now, because we are going to be using dependency injection and all that good stuff, I need a private read-only I quota access. Quota access. There's that. I'm also going to want logger of usage manager. And that's really about it for now. Now, this thing wants a reference to extensions, logging, abstractions. We use 801. There we go. Good, good, good. And let us quota access, quota access, and logger usage manager logger. We'll assign those like so. Thing of beauty. And let's do load user quota async first. Op result of quota container access result. No. Manager result equals a new one of those. Return manager result. And that's going to be grumpy until I say you are async. There we go. Pardon me. Goodness. And of course, I need a quota container. Quota container equals null. Manager result dot payload equals quota container. And now we can try. And catch. But before I go much further, there's a thing I forgot to do, because there is no guarantee that the host subsystem stood up a logger. So the very first thing we do when we catch an exception is we say GUID GUID.new GUID string message equals an error occurred while loading the quotas for user. Gotta add the $, user ID. Blast it, Rob. Come on, man. Very good. And what I want to do is I'm going to say a manager result dot add error exit message. We're going to logger log error, and we're going to send in the exception and our EXID as a string. Yeah, good enough. Var access result equals quota access, and we need to await it. Quota access dot load user quota async. Now, what does load user quota async require? It needs the user ID. Boop! Now, if access result does not equal null, and also access result dot was successful. Else, if access result, you know what? If access result is null here, we probably fell into the exception. So manager result, nope. For each var error in access result dot errors, manager result dot add error dot key and error dot value. There we go. Yeah, not enough to do. So our access result payload equals access result dot payload. Now we know that that is going to be a user quota. If access, now if it was successful, we are going to have an access payload. There we go. We know that's not going to be null. So quota container mgr payload. Oh wait, we've already got it. Quota container equals access payload dot, and we don't have a method defined for that yet. I want to take a look at how I am naming those things in my Townsfolk manager. Model transformers. Okay, so that's to access model, to app model. Okay. So down here in internal operations, I need to add a class. And it is going to be model transformers. It's going to be internal static public static quota container to app model this user quota storage model. And we have to resolve some references. Pop out End, give it some wigglies, and I'm going to go ahead and make this nullable. And I'm going to make this nullable. I'm going to say quota container nullable app model equals null. And we're going to say return null. And then I'm going to put us on a brief intermission because I've had a lot of coffee today. And I need to go take care of that coffee because it's being silly at me and not giving me a free extra 20 minutes or so to finish up what I'm doing. I got to go talk to a man about a horse. I'll be back in like 2 minutes. And I will mute my my microphone. I'll be right back. I said I'd be quick. All right, main screen turn on. All right, so IntelliCode is actually being intelligent right now by suggesting exactly what I wanted to add next. So that's groovy. And we're not going to return null. We're going to return the app model. Silly thing. There we go. Now, yeah, I'm still not using Copilot because it's not free. I've also still got Codium disabled in Visual Studio because Codium actually gets in a bit of a fight with IntelliCode, and they end up rendering their advice on top of each other. You know what? ChatGPT is really good with a lot of help. New quota container. And it is not expecting a user ID. So user ID equals storage model.user ID. Now we're going to need to add another extension method here. And it's going to be public static. And it's going to return a quota object to app model, this resource quota, storage model. And I'm going to use the exact same kind of thing. Yeah, GPT is a pretty good collaborator. I really prefer the Microsoft wrapper for it over on Bing AI, believe it or not. At least in terms of having sort of a trusted advisor type thing. I don't often use it for code generation. Or actually, I never use it for code generation, though I do take a look at the code that it suggests and then modify what it suggests to my exact purposes. I really just use it as super Google, Like, it helps me find the questions I don't know to ask yet. App model equals new quota. Yeah, read, understand, write your own, 100%. I mean, it's the same thing that we got into with Stack Overflow and so on years back. So what properties live inside metered resource equals storage model dot metered resource? Cool. What else? We've got budget equals storage model dot budget, and consumed budget, consumption. It's got the consumption. Dear Martha, it seems that this quota has come down with the consumption. Yeah, and I would extend what you're saying there, Rev, like ChatGPT, Stack Overflow, et cetera, et cetera. Let's take that all the way to Microsoft Learn. NPC AI generations equals storage model dot AI generations dot to app model. That really ought to be nullable. Boop and boop. Save them. There we go. And NPC storage equals storage model dot storage dot to app model. There we go. And we return the app model. Great. Close that. Don't need the quota containers definition open anymore. Let's come back to the usage. And access payload dot to app model. Bam. Our quota container is no longer null. Everything is happy. And I can simplify this whole shebang to this. Cut, delete, replace. And let's get tidy. One more boop. Here we go. Yeah, I quite like that. Access result dot errors is a new read-only dictionary of what? Good and string? I can't remember. Yep, good and string. There. O is capitalized. What are you complaining about now? There. Now what are you complaining about? Require parameter dictionary, read-only dictionary, read-only, blah, 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 blah. Dot new. Now what are you complaining about? Fine. You know what? Get lost. I really don't like that compiler warning. Really, really, really don't like it. So you know what I'm going to do? Something that I've been putting off for a while. Let me go to the definition of op result. Public op result copy errors to target. And we're going to return the target for each var error in this dot errors target dot add error dot key error dot value. Save that. I'm going to make it a void. I do this. I should review just for my own. In C#, if I mark a function parameter as ref, remind me what that does. Parameter is passed by reference, which is exactly what I want to have happen. Yep. Perfect. Parameter inside the message. Good. Don't use that very often. But in this case, I think it's okay. So we're going to come back to Usage Manager. And boom. And we'll pass it with the ref. Now what's it complaining about? Oh, I'll convert from ref op result of t to ref op result. Fine. Public virtual void copy errors to op result t payload and public virtual void copy errors to TU ref up result of T target, and that's incorrect. And for each var error in this errors target add error error dot key error dot value, and let's see if it'll let me do it that way. Yeah, there we go. Yay, generics. Pardon me. Okay. And now I've just created myself a piece of technical debt to resolve where I can go replace all of the looping with this. But cool, I'm fine with that. So quota container equals access result. We've assigned it. Otherwise, we've copied the errors. And out here, outside of our catch block, we're assigning payload to the quota container and returning the manager result. Good. Let us, rather than implementing all of these methods all in one go, well, we're going to need that quota ID too, aren't we? We sure are. So that we can identify which quota we're consuming. And releasing when we get there. And I also don't see my method for recording the AI token consumption. Did I put that on subscription access? That would have been a really dumb place to put it. No, it's not there. Pretty sure I implemented it up here. Consume quota, load user quota, release quota, dispose. Am I imagining things? Oh, I also didn't implement any of this stuff. Very weird. Well, it's a good thing I haven't tried to test this stuff yet, is it? Oh, you know what? No, I remember implementing all of this stuff, which means I've got a branch hanging out somewhere. Ugh, I'll fix that offline later. Gross, though. Don't code while sick. Yeah, I definitely implemented all of these things. I'll just do a manual copy and paste merge operation offline. Yeah, I've had Rona since like Well, I started showing symptoms last Tuesday, and then I was down for the count Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The weekend, I was still pretty zombied, and I finally got back at it yesterday. So quota access. My SQL providers are not filled in for some kooky reason. That's very weird. I'll merge stuff around later. Okay, load user quota async, release quota, blah, blah, blah. We've got load. And I guess I better implement that up in the resource access. Could have sworn I wrote that already. Okay. I'm going to have to get that stuff harmonized in offline. And tomorrow, I'm gonna also get these methods implemented the way I need them to be. And then tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're going to integrate this usage manager into our workload component up here. Got all your cards scanned. Which cards, Rev? So here's all this stuff. Tomorrow we're going to do the integration into the character workloads. So I am not going to get that stuff filled out today. What I am going to do offline is finish implementing the manager. Okay. Oh, that's neat. That's super cool. Very neat. So I'm going to finish implementing this manager. I'm going to get the resource access code brought in. I know I've got it implemented in some other branch, and I really desperately need to do some branch maintenance and some repository hygiene, just because I feel like I've gotten ahead of myself and then behind myself and all that stuff. So I'll get that merging done offline. I'll finish implementing this stuff, and then tomorrow when we pick up, I'll integrate the load quota, consume quota, release quota. Although we don't have any workloads that or any user actions that would release quota yet, but we'll get there. And then there's another one that I have declared somewhere that will allow me to track or keep track of a more detailed um, count of AI tokens as they're consumed in real time. And I don't even see the class for that in here. So yeah, I'm missing a merge somewhere. And I think I know why. But it's not a valid reason. Oh, geez, yeah, I know why. Okay, so today's actually been really, really productive, despite my surprise and alarm at not having these access classes filled in. That kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop, but that's okay. I'll get it fixed. Yeah, I don't even have my SQL models declared. Yeah, there's something screwy going on. I'll fix it. It'll be fine. So I'm going to do some Git gymnastics and get those classes pulled in like I need them to be. And then I'm going to get the rest of this stuff implemented. And tomorrow we will integrate the usage or the usage manager with that API component up top, and that ought to start having things flow through to the database and managing our user quotas as they take advantage of the system. pretty cool stuff. So until then, I am Rob, that developer dad, and you all take care of yourselves. It's been a good day. Happy coding, friends.